everyone. Welcome to Boston Caribbean Fashion Week. And today we'll be talking about the effects of COVID on the model agencies. We actually have Yemi with us. She is the owner and founder of Donahue Models and Agency. Hi, Yemi. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, Yemi, my first question to you is, how is everything going in the modeling world?
That's a loaded question. It hasn't been easy, I'll be honest, because you find that we're one of the industries that got hit really hard. So a lot of fashion designers are having to pull back because disposable income got affected by COVID because most people are losing their jobs. So designers that did custom orders had to slow down. A lot of them transitioned into making masks, which was great. Yes. But on the modeling side of things, again, it affected a lot of models because there was not as much demand for models as there used to be. Yes. And even with companies like the companies that I work with, some of them, a lot of the time when the economy is bad, marketing budgets get affected. And that's usually the first thing that gets cut.
Yes.
And if there's no money to do marketing, then there's no need for them to book models.
Yes.
And so we've really been hit pretty hard.
And what is actually, how are they models right now able to do submission, get work? How is that platform?
Thank God for technology.
Yes.
I keep wondering, maybe I should get me some stock in Zoom.
I know, right?
Goodness. I mean, of course, they've been around before all of this Skype, Google Meet and stuff, but Zoom in particular, I think became the most the most popular of the different platforms. And so for the few jobs that were taking place, a lot of casting directors were now looking at electronic submissions. I personally have been doing that. I've done that for several years because it's just easier, it's more convenient, and it was easier to send out to designers and send out those runway videos. But a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, just because of social distancing, more and more the demand for electronic submissions has significantly increased. And so that's kind of been a good thing. Yeah.
And what about casting and jobs? Are there more jobs now? How is it with social distancing? What is that like?
I can only speak to that from my perspective, from the volume that I see. Of course, the first 3 months, so March was when the lockdown started in Rhode Island. March, April, May, there was nothing happening, nothing. And then as kind of like June started to roll around, as they started the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 openings, businesses started to do a little bit here and there. It's still not yet back to the levels that they were pre the pandemic, but I'm beginning to see some stirring, some requests for submissions. And I'll give you a quick example. It's because of social distancing, it's become a little bit more cumbersome. So traditionally, if I book, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 models on a job, it may be for like a photo shoot. It could be a 2-hour, a 3-hour, 4-hour, commitment. Yeah. They get them all in. They've got the hair, the makeup, the photographer, the director of photography, the client. They get it done. But we did a job, I think it was in July of this year, where they hired 6 models. And what they did was they separated them and had each model come in for that model's own 2-hour time slot.
Oh, so they had their own time to come in.
Exactly. So that means that a shoot that should have taken 4 hours, they spread it out over 2 days. Now, the models will get paid the same, whether they were all there together or individually, because they were paying them by the hour, but the photographer, the hair, the makeup, those people that would have had to be there the entire day, or for the 4 hours, if it was done that way, or for the 2 days, regardless of, So that meant that the client would have had to pay 3-4 times the amount that they would have paid with, if the pandemic hadn't been in existence. So it's become a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more expensive for a lot of people. So my guess is that there will still be some companies that will choose to kind of hang back and wait until, things are a little bit safer. And at this rate, we're not sure if we're going to see anything until middle of next year. So it's kind of touch and go for now.
Yeah. And what would you say if, as far, I know there are some submissions still happening, what tips would you give models on submitting? Because now they have to video themselves, they have to make sure that lighting's right, dress appropriately, runway walk. What are some of the tips? Walk us through what you would say.
So I would say models should do everything that they would do if they went for an actual casting. I mean, when you're going for casting models, you're still, it's like going for a job interview. you're dressing appropriately. If you're going to cast for a runway show, you should have on fitted jeans, a fitted top, take your high heels, nice makeup, nice hair. You know, you put yourself together nicely. If you're auditioning for a TV commercial, same thing. You kind of dress for the role within reason. So whatever it is you're going to cast for, think about if you were doing it, in person, and still follow those same rules. If you're auditioning models, if you're auditioning for a TV commercial, you have to learn to slate. Hi, my name is, I'm with so-so agency, or hi, my name is, and I am from Massachusetts, or wherever you are. So you introduce yourself, you go into your script, and then you end the submission. You want to make sure that whatever camera you're using, could be a cell phone, it could be a tablet, it could even be a laptop, it could be a camera on a laptop, but the resolution should be good. You don't want to be sending grainy video clips, you know, and it should be short and sweet, to the point. Follow whatever directions they give you. And I'll give you another example. I sent a submission to a model who's looking to come on board with my agency, interviewed her last week, sent her a short commercial script, maybe 5 lines to read. And I said, well, have fun with it, you know, act it out, you know, and send it to me. I get the video today, and it's a minute and a half where she read the script, but then she decided to improvise and make her own scene out of it. Now that's cute, but my concern is that she's not following directions. Right. So now my concern is, if I book her with a client, what's she going to do? Follow their direction, or going to create her own little scene? So I think she was trying to. So my advice to model is keep it short, keep it clean, follow direction. And, you know, when you send in your submission, send it in with a nice note. Don't just submit. You know, send it with a nice note. Hello, this is blah, blah, blah. Please find attached my video for the casting for, you know, Boston Caribbean Fashion Week, or whatever it is that you're submitting for.
Oh, very nice, very good. And how would the models go about submitting to your agency, which you just explained? But what research should they be doing? Because I know I've had a lot of people talk to me about, I want to put my kids in modeling, I want to put my family in modeling. And what I've heard lately too is, because of COVID, families have been submitting videos so that they're able to, you know, to apply for jobs so that they can work together on set. I've heard about that.
Yes. There's actually been an increase, even in demand. When I've had some clients request, and they'll say, do you have siblings? Do you have families? Because it's safer, under the circumstances that we are with social distancing, it's safer and easier for them to just get a whole family unit. Normally, as an agent, if they say put a family together, I'm getting this model, that child, you know, no relation, because they're models with my agency. But now, I just was looking at one yesterday where they needed siblings between the ages of 10 and 12. And so what I did was I brought up all of my models that were between the ages of 10 and 12, and I emailed their parents to say, hey, does so-and-so have a brother or a sister that's within the same age range, so I can submit them as a pair? So that is happening. So if a family is interested in doing that, they can, you know, do that together as a group, just introduce themselves, you know, do a short, fun clip, you know, again, no more than a minute long. Definitely they should research the agencies that they're looking to do. I always say, start in your local area. So if you're in Massachusetts, look for agencies in Mass. I know there's some really great agencies.
Yes.
Right. And Rhode Island is far. You know, we're like, 50 minutes down the highway. So sure. But don't be submitting to San Diego or California, because if they're looking for a job, how are you going to get there? Right. But if you're coming on board with my agency, it's pretty simple. You go to the agency's website, DonahueModels.com. There's an online submission form. And what you always want to do, you know, for any model or family that's interested in doing this, when you research the agency, go to their website, find out the instructions they give for submissions. So some agencies will say do an electronic submissions. Don't then print a photo and then put it in the mail. Because now, again, you're demonstrating that you're not listening to what the agency is saying and following direction. So on my site, you go, you fill out, it asks you specifically, it asks specific questions. How old are you? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? What's your phone number? Upload a headshot, full body shot, blah, blah, blah. So it's to the point. And then when I get that, I then either myself or my assistant will email them, and we schedule a 1-hour virtual interview. And during that interview is when I then ask them to send me a runway video. They have a week to work on it, a runway video, and I send them a short commercial script. They work on both, and they send those to me. And then that's part of my evaluation process. Pre-pandemic, if they would come in to see me at the office, I would have them do both of those in the office in front of me. But, you know, I've been able to figure out, you know, an alternative way to do that. And it actually has been working better because
you've been great at electronic. You've been really good at that. I worked with you before.
Because they're not as, usually when they come in to see me, they're nervous, and I can tell, you know, you can, you know, their voice.
Interviewing.
Do it at home, it's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, that's true. And what about how is everyone keeping safe on set? Tips on keeping safe on set, because I know that, you know, we have to wear our masks, social distancing, and all that. What would be some of the tips on that?
Yeah, well, what I'm finding is for the few jobs that we have been booking, the clients have actually been very explicit. You know, make sure that they come, make sure they have a facial mask, tell them to wait in the parking lot, tell them to call this number, and then we'll come and let them in. And then while the model is on set, they would say, keep your mask on set at all times. Of course, when they're shooting whatever it is that they're doing, the model has to take the mask off. But I've also seen them give instructions to say, while the model has their mask off, everybody else in the room, whoever doesn't need to be in the room should be out of the room, besides the photographer and maybe the director, and they keep their distance as well. And then as soon as the model's done, they say, put your mask back on, bring your own water or your own snacks, bring hand sanitizer. So I've actually been very impressed with with how they've been trying to follow the guidelines as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
So I know we talked a little bit about submission for models. What about submission for actors and actresses? That's a little different, right?
It kind of still is the same thing. So I talked about, you know, video submissions where you're delivering scripts. And I included that in my initial answer because I work with models and talent. So I don't just do models, I do actors as well. Not for movies and stuff, but for local TV commercials.
Yes.
And so it's kind of like the same principle, especially with the acting. That initial introduction before you start to deliver your lines is even more important, because that's how the casting director is able to track when they're watching a video, who are you? So if you just start the video and you just start delivering your lines, they don't know who you are. So for any model or actor who's not sure how to slate, I would recommend just Google and say slate, S-L-A-T-E, and you find all sorts of examples. But it's basically an introduction of yourself, who you are, what you do, or if you're union or not union, or if you're represented by an agency or not, or what state you're from, and then you go into your delivery.
So just one, we'll wrap up in them, but just a final take on, you know, on what's happening with COVID, what, you know, what we see for the future. Has it, I feel like it has changed, you know, everything, but it has changed the, you know, the modern world with going virtual, with being able to do fashion shows that way and being able to be incorporated that way. So I do think it has changed, and being able to evolve and opening the avenue. Right?
It absolutely has, yes. I mean, the fashion industry was forced to, because, you know, right as the shutdowns were happening, we started to see everything shut down. I mean, this was the beginning of spring, where most large retail department stores had just probably received their shipment of clothing that was going to go on the shopping floor. And you know, these large companies, Neiman Marcus, Macy's, when they ship orders in, they're getting them in the thousands. So that all just sat on the store floor for all of spring.
Yeah.
And so by the time you know, next thing they know, summer's rolled around, and even then we weren't still fully open, or they were keeping minimal hours. And that's why a lot of the large retailers started to file for bankruptcy, because, you know, that's just, they've already spent that money to buy the pieces, hoping to make it back in profit through sales, and then that didn't happen. So that of course has affected that. But, you know, the general school of thought is that that's going to probably force them to start looking at smaller batches rather than getting everything in bulk. And then for, you know, those of us that produce, you know, Cheryl, I know you, I know Althea, we all do, we're all fashion show producers. I do Rhode Island Fashion Week. And so I was planning Rhode Island Fashion Week for May, when again the lockdown happened and we couldn't do that. So I started a virtual series called Fashion Fetch, shameless plug, you know, that had, you know, over 700,000 views within 8 weeks. That just blew my mind away. And so it definitely told me that there's an audience, there's an appetite for virtual. So right now I'm on a break as I, you know, gather content for second season, which will hopefully start in November. But I'm absolutely looking forward to Boston Caribbean Fashion Week, because I know that's all virtual as well. And I've attended Boston Caribbean Fashion Week over the years. Been very gracious in inviting me each season. You know, and so I'm really excited and curious to see, because I know, you know, she does different things. She doesn't just do shows. She does, you know,
the business of it.
Right. So being able to see how she, you know, and I know she's a powerhouse. She's, you know,
Althea, this show this year is this event this year is going to be powerful, because with the workshops and really speaking about the business aspect, because once COVID happened, everybody was like, okay, what do I do with my business? And, you know, what do I do? And this event is actually going to address all that, or like, how do you present yourself, and what, what are the formats, what are the platforms? So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, I know New York Fashion Week just concluded, and I was reading an article, Victoria Beckham, where she had, in the showroom during the show, all she had was her family, husband and her kids, and then everybody else was watching it virtually. So, there's going to probably be some kind of hybrid there, where I know most of New York Fashion Week was like 50 or less in the audience, and then everybody else had to dial in and watch it. So some fashion weeks may do it live, some may do it pre-recorded and then air it, kind of like a premiere. I'm sure that's why we're creative. So when stuff happens, we don't like say, oh wow, that's the end. We're like, okay, this happened, all right.
What do we do?
Let's move. Let's go. Exactly. Absolutely.
What do we do? So one last final advice from you, as we're wrapping up for the models, as far as, the ones that kind of feel, what, I don't have a job, I don't have a job anymore. I don't have a platform anymore. Like, the doors are open. Like, what do I do? So one last final, advice to them and saying, do this and just focus on doing it, because I feel like in this time that we're in, this is the time to really push for your passion and really push for the things that you want as your career,
Right. And that's very true. I mean, one of the things that I find was happening, and not just in the fashion realm, even on the business side for me, there were lots of seminars, there were lots of webinars going on. So in between me trying to kind of figure out what I was doing, I just started, because when things were normal, I didn't have the time. Seminars. So once I saw that I had these blocks of time that were open, I just started signing up for stuff left, right, and center. Social media, how to maximize. So for the models, it's the same thing. If this is your craft and this is something you're passionate about, don't just sit back and watch Netflix all day. Go online, see what's going on, subscribe to different sites. I know there are different Facebook, groups and stuff like that, where, models are connecting with photographers. Get to be part of that, and learn, definitely, take workshops. I know they say, oh, don't see that.
It's good to learn your craft. You
have to be good at walking. You have to know how to pose in front of the camera. And this is an argument I have with models all the time. Well, why should I take that workshop? Well, last time you took a photo shoot, you were a little stiff. And I can see it. So if I'm telling you need to go loosen up a little bit, take that as positive criticism or constructive criticism. So, learn your craft, continue to practice, see what's going on, and don't stop submitting. Even if there's not a lot going on right now, make those connections. Make those networks, even if you might not see anything from it now, but you never know what that may lead to, down the line. But don't give up. That's the biggest thing. Don't give up.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Yemi. You've given us some great information. Well, you're always great anyway. It's always great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. And I hope that everyone that's watching this has gotten insight on navigating the model world through COVID and the time that we're in now. Thank you so much, Yemi.
Thank you.